Okay, now I'm going to deal with three types of vectors: position vector, free vector, and displacement vector. They're quite different. Let's pay close attention. I'm going to use examples to illustrate what we want to illustrate here. All right. A position vector is basically the vector relative to the origin. All right. If I say the position vector of P is the position of P relative to the origin. So if I say position vector of P is actually just OP. Okay, so the position vector basically defines the position of a point relative to the origin. So it's always relative to the origin. So if I say, example, if I have a position vector, if I say position vector of Q is just OQ. End of story. That's that. Very simple. Now, a free vector on the other hand, okay, a free vector on the other hand is basically just a vector in space that describes a displacement in space. If I say a vector is, say, like that, 1, 0.5. If I say this vector A is 1, 0.5, whether this vector A is here or here, it will always just be A. Right? It's what we call a free vector. Imagine you exert, for physics students, if you exert a force, all right, if you exert a force 1 unit in this x direction and 0.5 unit in the y direction, whether you exert the force on this object or the other object, it will always be the same. This is what we call a free vector. And finally, if we talk about a displacement vector, it is basically if P is a point, Q is a point, PQ then hence is a displacement vector. It is the change in displacement from P to Q like that. In this case, PQ is 1, 0.5. So if I have another point, say, I don't know, V, then PV is another displacement vector. You may want to rewind this if you want to um, revise what the difference is, but to summarize in a table, all right, to summarize in a table, a position vector is a position of a point relative to the origin. So OP is a position vector of P. It's always fixed to a specific point. So if I were to draw, this is P, then OP is the position vector of P. Free vector, it is basically just a quantity with a specific magnitude and direction. If I tell you A is this vector, it is just 1 unit in the x direction, 0.5 unit in the y direction, and that's it. It's just a free vector with a specific magnitude and direction. It has no starting point, it has no ending point. So usually we denote it by this kind of notation. Right? Usually we denote it by this kind of notation. And finally, a displacement vector is what? We represent a change in position, right? A change in position from one point to location to another. So for example, if I use AB, AB is the change from A to B. And just now that example, all right, if PQ is here, PQ is what we call a displacement vector. All right, so let's distinguish these three. It will be useful to look at this table, which is provided in your notes, and take a look at it. Thank you.